Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Watercolor Instructions. Today I'm going to do a cityscape, one of the white villages of Spain. So this image reference, obviously, I use Google Earth for references on the places where I've been. One of the nice things about Google Earth is, if you have noticed on the street view on the top left corner, you can go to different years and then pick something which has a strong contrast. In this case, what I'm looking for is a strong shadow line. So that way it's easier. So I always look for the same image if the composition is correct. But if you want to check for the tones, you can go back, check for different views, different years, and then usually you have a nice image. So, and then also help me out. If you like the video, hit that like button. Subscribe if you already haven't, and hit the notification button so that you don't miss another video from me. So as I start, every time I start, I usually go through the materials. So this is a Saunders 300 grams materials. On the right is a John Pike palette, 20 wells. I'm going to put in all my brushes and my colors I use at the end of the video. So there's a couple of slides, 10 seconds each, so that you can pause it and then see what colors and brushes I use. So most of my brushes are not expensive. They're cheapish brush. You could really splurge on really good brush, but they work. Like any other video, so it's always, I think it's valuable to do a value study just to understand how the values act and adjust it. And also it makes you a mental note on how a project might work before committing to a bigger paper, this one or any other size. So, and also quarter sheet is good for video, but any other size. So I'm looking at, it starts over here and then somewhere just below half line. So over here, and I'm looking at, that's my first. Again, this is a value, so I'm not particularly keen on composition, but I just want to get an idea for what the values are. So here, and I'm looking at that way. That's the first one. That's the second. And I need to squeeze in 2 more houses within that. So, and, okay. Perspective is very important, as I said. So if you are uncomfortable with perspective, especially with alleys and buildings, you want to have some understanding of perspective. I've done a couple of videos on perspective. It might be helpful if you guys want to have a look at it. So, and the first thing I'd say, there is a staircase or a balcony. Those ornamental designs might look really nice when you do that. The spacing is not correct, but I'm okay with that. And I'm going to do perspective. Everything is vanishing into that particular point, so it makes it more realistic. So everything is assuming there's some vanishing point. It goes into the vanishing point. So there's plenty of design. Obviously there is a window, a balcony, and there's more balcony, and there's a blue flag. And there is a couple more bits and bobs, which I'm not going to pay attention, especially on the value. So, okay, that's our main value. There's a little bit of red roof. There's another window. All there. There's another balcony. There's a door. Obviously that scaling is not correct, but and a little more window, and there's a little bit of sky, and then there's also a wire flying in. So in this case the value, so that there's a little bit of sky, maybe a little more darker, so I'm making sure there is a shadow, that shadow, and then also the shadow over here. So lower toned, and the same on every other building over here. Okay, and a lot the value, let's say the third tone, and goes over there, and not to mention there's a dark shadow follows, and that's the shadow over there. And where else that, oh, there's a little bit of shadow, there's a little bit of shadow, those are important. There's a little bit of shadow, and not to mention all the gate doors and windows will have a tone darker. Something of that effect. So that for me gives me an idea of what, how I need to paint, and then carry on from there. Yeah, so I use that as a reference. That's my value sketch, so I know where my big areas are. So I use that reference and then carry on from there. So this is a 6B pencil. I usually use a slightly bigger pencil for bigger blocks, but something like that. I use a smaller pencil so that I can get rough shapes, don't darken it. So we're looking at somewhere half, somewhere over there. Half, a little over half over here. I'll make corrections if I need to. So over here, and then we're looking at that particular building. So it's not straight. Somewhere stands here. And I need to fit in 2 more. So probably that one is a little shorter. So now to get confused, take time to draw it correctly. So there's nothing worse than rushing up and then trying to do, however good the drawing skills are, if, okay, so those are my big blocks. I hope you can see the lines. They might be a little low. Let me just increase the contrast. Okay, so it goes here, a little more skewed, and all the way till there. And over here, so I see one, two, one, two, and then there is a third one as well. And so probably I should have split. Okay, that's roughly the scale for that. And now let's keep going. The foreground, whatever is over here, I'll pay a little more attention to make sure they are correct. So okay, so there is about 3. So I'm trying to use perspective to get that thing correct. So this comes over here. So okay, so that the perspective is true. Same thing, imaginary line, roughly about the same distance. See, everything connects. And this one, the window is over here. It connects. That's a line. 1, 2, 3. See, those lines are all connected in the right direction. So that's the first part. Then second, so over here, so we got another door, and I'm looking at somewhere over that line. That's where the balcony starts. So in the balcony, there's the perspective was not correct. Second balcony, and there's a third balcony which is sticking out a little bit, and that's where the flag sits. Okay, and well, let me just clean up so that I know where the second and the third one sits. I'm looking at a door, and there's windows right above that. So that one is not correct, and there's a window right above that. So the door should come till here, so roughly that height. Okay, so that's taken care of, and so I'm having a couple of pillars, a bit of architecture details, not much, but just enough to make sure they are correct. There's a window, assuming there's another window, and I'll I'll add another window because it's just behind. Okay, so okay, so this side I'm okay with it. So also just let me just do the boundary. So there's a gray pipe, whatever that is, and there's some feature on the top which we can leave it. Okay, so I know it usually takes a bit more time for a drawing like this, is because you need to get your perspective right. If you don't get your perspective right, trust me, it's going to look funny. Three doors with a balcony and a little feature on the bottom, and there's a window, so roughly by that height. There's a window and there's a balcony, and okay, so that one is done. So this one has a protrusion. Getting the perspective is again important, or else it looks something is off. So the flag height, that height, we got a street lamp. Okay, and we're looking at that height, and so there's just a single balcony, luckily, less details. That's good. And there is one door and two windows. Okay, and we're almost coming to the end. So you can see there's one. I'm using those lines so that I know those are my lines. So perspective, everywhere there's a perspective, and there's a balcony around that height. So it protrudes. I can see a little bit in the bottom, and it goes all the way till here, and there's also another door window in the back. Okay, so the last thing, and there's a okay, and last but not least, there's a garage door. So there's a small step. And there's some design element. I'm not going to worry too much about it. And the last thing, so we're going to do is over here. Doesn't have to be precise, but I'm just trying to stop at those corners. Alright, so I could probably make it a little more over here. So sorry if you guys want to fast forward the drawing, but the drawing is very critical. So I'm going to put in a couple of people over there, because there is. Maybe 3. Okay, that should do it. And what else is the shadow? The shadow is also over here. And the flag pole is a lot higher, so it comes all the way till here. And the shadow goes all the way, okay, just till that edge. All right, so there's lots going on. I'm gonna go a little slow and let's see how we're gonna finish this painting. A lot of fun. This one is a really good drawing exercise, to be honest. Good perspective, and then just understanding a little bit of tone. So there's very little sky, so usually I go with a mop, but in this one I'm just going to use a synthetic brush. That's A-OK, so that I have a little control. And then also my kids are sleeping. I don't want to use the hair dryer at this stage, so okay. Nice and sunny. Okay, so the next is all shades of gray. So a few of the walls I'm going to make it slightly cooler by adding a little more of ultramarine blue, and maybe some I'll make it a little warm by adding 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 have a little bit of paper on the side just to know what the tone should look like and crack on with it. To be honest, I'm going to just make a slightly bigger mix because we need a lot more. I'm just cleaning the palette basically. I'm just taking all the greens, all the grays, all the blues, whatever is there, you mix it. Sometimes the best gray you can get is when you clean the palette. So I'm just checking, that seems to be all right. And I'm going to just go making sure that I don't touch that one. So that's my first coat. I will leave the lamp, that white, so first coat. And also when it dries, it looks a little less darker. So okay. Okay, at this stage I'm going to just add a little more texture so that it gives a little more greens and blues and other things, so it doesn't look too monotonous. Okay, so we continue with that. So there is no stopping at the moment. So all we are trying to do is same tone, the shadows. So over here, I could go a little darker. I think I should go a little darker. Okay. Okay, so Okay, so that one is done. I'm going to make it a little lighter and then come and finish that one so that we can go a little darker later. Okay, and then there is a little bit of color. So I'm going to do a little, yeah, that's fine. So at this stage, all I'm doing is blocking colors, and especially in this painting, it's all about blocking the right colors. And okay, also there's a little bit of texture to it, so I'm gonna add a little texture. See how I'm adding a little bit of texture, makes it more interesting. Okay, let's crack on. More shadows on the top. I'm using primarily cool blue, ultramarine blue, and gray. So I'm gonna come in. Probably need to start switching to a smaller brush, but I will just manage this one. But need to switch to smaller brush. So just behind. So there's a little bit of red. I'm going to just add a little bit of red on the top. Let it float. And I'll just soak up this bead. I don't want it to drip. Brilliant. So now it's a matter of now slowly finishing. While this is drying, I can go ahead and then add the big shadow as well. So the shadow. So the big shadow. It's just a matter of just adding more colors gradually, increasing the tone. Plenty of water. And I'll just add a little bit of warmer colors just to keep it a little interesting. Okay, all right. So that one is almost dry. So I'm gonna slowly move to the other areas as well. So I'll have my smaller brush. So let's go from that end. Let's finish the background. Okay. Okay. So there's a couple of people. I'm going to do I'll add a little more details to those people in the end, and I'll start adding a little more details as we start. Okay. So there's plenty of small details. Okay. So this one is just a exercise to add more and more details. So that one is a bit too dark. We'll lighten it, see if I can. I'm going to take that out. Do you see that? I've just sponged it out because I need one more layer of dark inside, and also it's got a little bit of okay. A little bit of yellow ochre, and it's got a little bit of design going, to be honest. But and darker on one side. So it's just a matter of slowly going and then executing it. Don't rush. Don't rush, and then you got the so far. Don't screw it up. Slowly start adding a little more details till you get to the final. So I'm just adding a little more details on the shadows to make it 3D instead of 2D. Random. We'll take a lot of blue pigment and okay, and also in the background I see a green flag. Okay, that's all I'm going to do about the flag, but now we keep adding more and more details. So the door, first tone slightly darker than the last one, and we slowly build. Okay. Are you guys catching it? It's just we're adding more and more texture. So the door is slightly a little bit of burnt umber. I'm mixing the same tone, darker. Stop there. Okay, so we're almost coming closer and closer. So we're looking at the dough. I should have made the drawing a little darker. I can't see clearly, but that's okay. I'm committed and I'm gonna complete it to my best of my skills. Okay. So those perspective lines are important to making sure that they are going in the right direction. So those are the things which will give a little more. So you got a yellow ochre frame, orangish frame all around it. So that way everywhere, but okay. All right, let's get to this side. We haven't had a chance to do. So I'm going to do a little yellow ochre, very pale. I want a little more yellow. Okay, that's better. So yellow and the dough's yellow, and that one I'm going to do yellow and then I'm going to darken it. Okay, and I can see a little bit of detailing. So okay, I carry on, and what else do we have? A little more details. Okay, I'm going to switch to slightly smaller brush now and start adding a few more details on the door and other places. So I will come in and then do some dry brush strokes on that one. But at the moment, I'm going to just go and add the bars, much needed bars, and so I'm just using a dry brush, going methodically till we get the final effect. And for these doors, I have to come in and make it one more layer darker in that one. So, and the same thing for the shadows over here, a little more darker. Okay. Shadow, shadow. And okay. All right. So another thing, I'm gonna slightly darken that particular shadow. This one is a bit light, or maybe not. I'm gonna use a little bit of dry brush and start adding those wonderful details. Commit to it and just go for it. Beautiful. So it was burnt. I should have added over there. Okay, I will come in and darken. Beautiful. Okay, and I continue with that. So that place has a little shadow, and let it dry for a while. I will come in and then add some details over here. So some random details. Same goes. Okay, and where else is there? And we see, and there's plenty more to come over here as well. Okay, this one, we need to make this a little darker. And the same as here, while it's drying, I'm just adding that second layer. Okay. Okay, so that area needs to be addressed. Let's so big bold lines. Okay, dry lines and a little bit of details. Just adding a little more random touch. Okay, I think I'm okay with that. Doesn't have to look pretty, has to do the job. Okay, and a lot more details over here. And the last one, add little more railings on the top. We're almost finishing, so we're just going in with a dry brush, a little bit of ultramarine. I'm going, there's a bar, some connection. And on the top of that there's antenna. I'll have a few antennas here. And I'll come and finish in those people. Just enough details to know the people, but not enough to know what it is. Also, I'm going to just put in a couple of cobblestones. So it gives a little more perspective. Okay, so I'm almost done, apart from adding a little more details on the corner. Beautiful. Particularly impressed with this particular corner. I just want to do a few more details over here. And the dry brush strokes, it's too wet. Okay, what else do we need to do more things? What I did miss is to add, there was a texture over here. I think that's kind of interesting and important, so I'm gonna get there. And a few more rough spots. Okay, and not to forget the drainage and other odd bits and board needs to be added. That gives legitimacy or gives more credit. So okay, is there anything I can see? And last but not least, is a couple of wires, and we can call it as a day. So we got one running over here. There's no mucking about, just dragging it. That's it. All right. So that concludes. This one looks too pale. that concludes another painting. So as I said, try it out, and then I hope you enjoyed this video. Help me out, subscribe, and like that video, and leave any comments or any other video you want to see, and I'll be happy to try out another video. Till next time, keep practicing, and thank you.